Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, TSN 1050. We're up on TSN 2. First day of school. Seems like everything went all good. I don't know. Last thing I got from an update was, they're home.
Yeah.
Not over the moon, but seemed to be okay.
38 degrees
We'll take
outside.
That. I was sweating so profusely. I'm not a big sweat. I used to be in the Hall of Fame. Like sweating 10 years ago, I would have. I would have driven there.
How would that walk with your kids when you were, if you were Griff?
I don't know, man. I'd have to employ someone to be fanning me like I was an emperor.
Dude, I played golf this morning behind a guy. They weren't exactly trucking. And he had a tight pair of beige khakis on and walked and carried his bag.
Oh, outrageous.
I was looking at him and I thought to myself, if I was that guy, I'd be dead on the 12th hole.
Yeah.
It was smoking hot out there.
The hottest days of the year, the last 2 years.
The only guy who could pull that off is Pooley. Pooley'd have no sweat coming off. And he'd carry his bag and he'd wear tight khakis.
Yeah. He exclusively walks.
Yeah, Dave Poulin would not have a drip of sweat down his body. Everybody else would be just
so uncomfortable. Like I love the golf, but today I would have played, but it would have been.
That was your gift.
That was me, man. I was going to try to meet the teachers. I'm like, this is a horrible first impression. I'm leaking oil.
Yeah,
like
my buddies are walking. Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't know how you do that on a day like today. That's commitment. Ray's a big walker.
Is he?
I don't think so with his knee, man.
Well, he just did Cabot, and there you got to walk. Right?
But I thought he has one of those electric ones.
Yeah, he wouldn't. Cabot would have
You
caddies,
can't have an electric
right?
cart in Cabot?
Well, you'd have a caddy. Like a caddy would be carrying your bag, so it wouldn't be necessary. But I don't believe carts are allowed. Right?
Wow.
They're not at Pebble. Like you've played Pebble. Pebble, there's no carts.
Oh, yeah, there is. You
there
think
are
I would have
carts.
played Pebble Beach without a cart?
Oh, I didn't think that they were allowed on Pebble Beach.
I wheeled that cart right to the first
Trump who drives on the green.
That is a surprise to me. I was of the impression that you had to walk. I think they strongly encourage you embracing nature.
Would you roll in with your own cart or what? Like
No, I've told you guys many times. It was the weirdest experience. We played with two of the worst golfers in the history of golf. They walked, and they were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this, 80s band playing down by the water, playing this 80s, and all I heard throughout Pebble Beach was this 80s music. It was just the weird. I'm like, this is not what Pebble was supposed to be for me.
Yeah, that's disappointing. You get bad music, it can really jam you. And you play with people you don't want to play with.
Dude, it's ridiculous. You swipe your credit card for $1,000 for two people to play because I paid for my buddy that set it up. And then it's like, by the way, you're playing with two other people you don't know, and they're terrible, and you're going to be out there for 6 hours. It's like, that doesn't seem right.
No, that should be illegal at Pebble. There should be more of a vetting process.
Yeah, that's no good.
But what are you going to do? All right, Ray's coming up here in a moment, and we haven't obviously caught up with Ray all summer, but this will be great. See what's going through his mind. See if he's got a Phil Kessel take. You see Phil is trying to make a pitch. He wants to play. Can someone please give Phil a PTO?
Okay.
Can you give Phil Kessel a PTO?
Outside of the Montreal Canadiens, the other 6 teams, where would Phil fit?
It's not coming back here, clearly.
Toronto's just not going to happen. So 5 teams, really, because it's not coming back.
That's a good question.
Maybe he could find a spot in Ottawa.
You think Ottawa? Ottawa came to mind.
I thought maybe Winnipeg.
But
is Phil going there?
I think Phil would go anywhere. I think Phil wants to keep the Iron Man streak alive, and Phil is a pure hockey player.
Yeah,
all he wants to do is play. I have such an immense amount of respect for that. It's not a pillar of health. It's not Mr. Workout. It's just give me a place to play, and I guarantee you I will be in my uniform.
So based on the video this summer where he said to the guys in Vegas, it wasn't like, guys, these are important games coming up. You got to do this or you got to do that. He was like, if you guys make me fly down to Tampa, I'm going to be so pissed.
Yeah, he didn't want to go back to Tampa.
No, he didn't want to go back to Tampa and not play.
Probably had a tea time at Shadow Creek. He's like, you cannot ruin this.
But if the Stanley Cup champions have the guy on their roster, it's not like bringing him in's a dumb idea. You know what I mean?
No, he's not bad in the room. That's
he's not a bad human.
He's a good guy. Players love him. He's not going to play in the playoffs for you, though. He didn't play for Vegas. He played 4 games.
But he could play in Anaheim.
Yes.
He could play in a scenario where they need some of these guys to take a step. I think Anaheim is hoping some of those young players take a step from a maturation standpoint.
Right. But that's where I don't think Phil fits.
He's not a mentor,
He's not a mentor.
No.
Like Phil Kessel.
Might be a mentor.
He's not. He's a good guy, but he's not a mentor.
Good one, Randy.
Good one, Randy. Good one. All right, joining us now on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's our ESPN hockey analyst, Ray and Dreg's pod. We love him. He's back on the show. We haven't caught up with him all summer. Here's Ray Ferraro. What's happening, Ray?
I am first day of school, you get the kids out of the house. Reese is at a new school, and he's 13. He's going into grade 8, and I don't want to say I'm not engaged like I should be, but I've got the GPS on because I don't know where the new school is.
I was just going to say, did you get lost on the way to his new school?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm still showing I'm in the right direction, but there's a possibility that could happen.
Okay.
Let me take it a step further. You found out this morning that he's going to a new school.
No, I knew the new school part. I did not know the time of pickup.
Yes.
Which no idea. Not even close.
Yeah,
Ray, we're trying to find a spot for Phil. Where are you going to put him?
Oh, boy. Honestly, I don't. If you're not a very good team, do you want to absorb what Phil is? Because I just heard you guys he's not a leader, he's not a mentor, he's an awesome guy. His teammates just love him. But does a bad team or a developing team, do they need that? No, like Chicago went out and signed Nick Foligno for $4 million because they want him to mentor and help, and that's not Phil. I think he's got to play on a good team, but how many good teams are going to sign him? I don't know I can't even come up with a fit that makes sense, really.
No, we had the same issue, and yet I have such an appreciation for a guy who's now won 3 Cups. He's made a boatload of money, and he understands he's playing for like $750,000.
Right.
And he's more than happy to almost go anywhere. Like, it feels like any GM could call him up and say, fine, we'll bring you in for $800,000. And Phil would accept it, and he'll show up and play. And, like, when you consider his reputation when he was in town here, Ray, and he was miscast, a lot of it was unfair. They weren't a good team. But ever since he left, like the day he left Toronto, Phil Kessel's reputation is completely flipped.
Yeah.
Into winner, great guy, Iron Man. It's pretty incredible.
I find it amazing that the guy that got, kicked around for so long, some of it was just his demeanor, I guess, that he never looked like he was too stressed about anything. But he's the guy that turns out to be the rink rat.
Right.
Like, he essentially is Corey Perry. They're the same. They're 37, 38 years old. They can't get enough. They want to keep playing. They don't need to keep playing, but they want to keep playing. And I mean, I find it entertaining, actually. I love doing a game when Phil's around. He's still got the same demeanor. He's still got, like, he comes to the bench, he flips his stick upside down. Like, he doesn't look like there's any stress on him at all. And he just wants to play it. But eventually the door closes, right? There's just no time wins every time.
So we were talking about this Matthew Knies comment earlier. I'm curious to get your take on this, Ray. I don't know if you saw it, but there's a rookie showcase going on. And Knies was asked about how good Auston Matthews is. And he said, quote, pretty damn good. He's not just the best goal scorer in the NHL, but he plays defense too. He's kind of the best overall player in the NHL in my eyes, end quote, which naturally led us to concern ourselves with the reaction in Edmonton, because it has reached a point, I think understandably so, where McDavid has got almost unlimited respect, and it's unanimously accepted he's the best player in the world, by myself included. But this is a teammate of Matthews. They're both from Arizona. What do you make of that quote where Knies was just asked about how good Matthews is, and he decided to go as far as to say he thinks he's the best overall player in the game?
Well, given Matthews' wide range of experience and travels around the NHL, I temper his comments. I mean, the guy played 7 games.
Right.
So, like, if he would have said, geez, I don't think he's very good, well, then I think it would have been more noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does he fit in the best players in the league? I mean, he's near the very top, but he's not, like, honestly, you can't say he's McDavid. You just can't. He's like, you just can't. And whether you can say, I would prefer to have Alexander Barkov as an all-around player, or, now Patrice Bergeron that's retired, and I don't, those guys aren't at the same level. They do amazing things, and they're, the old 200-foot player, but when you're throwing 140 points on the board, or whatever McDavid got, and plays 24 minutes a game and does what he does, he's clearly the best player. It's hard to, I don't know, I can't even, with no disrespect, but I can't even take his comments really seriously because he's just a kid, right? He's just getting his toes wet in the league. But if he gets to play with them, he's going to find out in a hurry that he's right. He is pretty damn good.
I think the thing with Matthews, Ray, he's one of the 3 or 4 players that's thrown his name in the hat. If they go nuts throughout the season, like Matthews did once, and Connor McDavid doesn't go crazy himself and get 150 points, there's a chance you can win a Rocket Richard, you can win a Hart Trophy, and there's only a few guys that can do it. There's Cale Makar, there's Nathan McKinnon, there's Draisaitl. There's just not many guys that can do it. He did sign this summer. What did you make of the deal and all of that?
Well, the 4 years was interesting to me because, of course, the Leafs would have preferred something different. He wanted, he started at something shorter. They came to the 4 years. I personally think it's a really good deal. I really do.
For who?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Both. You get a player that's in the prime moments of his career, and you get him at a salary that I don't know, like for us old guys, it's all too much, right? It's like, oh my God, it's too much, $13 million. We were playing for, nickels in comparison, but it's like, it's the right kind of number for him. Like it wasn't going to be any different, really. And now you got him till 30 years old. You've chewed up 12 years, the best years of his career. By the time he's past 30, whatever he gets then is just gravy, right? The best years of a player's career, we know it. It's in his upper 20s. And Toronto's got him locked into that. I get the angst over whether he was going to sign and all that stuff. It's really kind of interesting because no matter what they do, until they can sort the cap to the place that they can add people to round their team out, it can only matter so much. Like depth wins, size wins. We just watched it. And we always hear copycat league, and I don't know if copycat is the right way. Like you can't be what you're not, but whether Auston Matthews signed for 8 years or 4 years for $10 million or $13 million, they're not winning a Stanley Cup with the defense as it's currently constructed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we'll all focus in on those guys, right? We'll focus on them all because they're the headline players, but that has to be fixed. And until it is, the team's going to be one of the best teams in the regular season, and we'll see what they are come playoff time. Like, why can't Toronto get 110 points this year? They can, for sure they can.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's also universally accepted what you just said, Ray. Like everyone we talk to, I'm sure we all talk to different people. They're like, that defense score has got to change. And I would anticipate that Tree Living likely is going to do that leading up to the trade deadline. But the last time we had you on, it was deja vu. We've done it many, many times. What's going to happen? They lost again. It was disappointing. Everyone claiming this is inevitable, that change is going to come. And now the dust settles. We get through summer. We're a day past Labor Day, and the core four is back. Riley and Brody are back. Samsonov's in net, and Keefe's behind the bench.
Nothing changed.
Literally, yes, some new players, entertaining players, interesting stories, new GM. But yeah, exactly. If you asked a hockey fan in Boston to find the team, they'd say, oh, it's the same team. Like, it's the same core four, Riley, goalie, coach. Now that we've had 3 or 4 months possibly of anticipating change, and I think we have an answer that it's not going to happen, how do you respond to that, even though we've got a new GM here in Toronto?
Well, I think what it tells us is whatever they explored, they felt this was their best road back. That if they explored moving some of those bigger pieces, they weren't getting the answer back that they needed. And so it's, we're all guilty of it. Oh, they should make change. They've got to do this. I felt it for sure. Like, it just seemed like, even if you're just changing the record to change the record, like just something. And it didn't happen, with the biggest of names. And it tells you, I think we probably saw how difficult it is to make a deal of that significance. And so I'm surprised, a little bit, more than a little bit. I think, people will like Bertuzzi. He's a good player. I watched him quite a bit after the deadline last year. I did a lot of his games in Boston. I had a bunch of them. He makes good plays. He plays with good players. He's not as rambunctious as you might think, but he's always in the middle of the play. Like, he doesn't take. Well, he's an upgrade over Bunting for sure. If you equate those two styles together, he doesn't take the penalties that Bunting takes. He's bigger. I think he's just a better player. And I think people in Toronto are going to like him a lot. Like, of the acquisitions, they're going to like him a lot.
Yeah, I think their top 9 is really solid. You throw in a Max Domi wherever he's going to fit. I don't think Tree's worried about the top 9. If anything, it's like you say, the defensive core and getting everybody, knock on wood, health throughout the season, all of that. I should apologize for coughing in your ear. It's amateur hour here. I pressed the cough button, and for some reason I didn't turn my mic off, so I apologize. But
Noodles, I'm going to tell you one quick cough story. Gordon and I are doing a game, and I got this dry throat, and he says, make sure you use the cough button if you need it. Well, you know how there's the play-by-plays, talk back, the spare, and then yours. I'm pressing the spare cough button, and I just coughed straight on the air. And Gord's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I let off, and I think I've done a really good job. And Chris Edwards is in my ear, the producer. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I just pressed the cough button. And he's like, no, you didn't. So,
happens to the best of us.
Well,
what are you going to
do? Before you came on, we were talking about, buzzing through the teams in Canada. Let's leave Montreal alone just because we know they're in a retool, rebuild. Talked about the Leafs. What other situations throughout the other 5 teams are you intrigued about? I mean, Calgary bounce back, Edmonton, get Connor Brown, couple guys. Vancouver's retooled their D. Is Ottawa intriguing for you? Winnipeg, what's going on with their top 2 players potentially? Like, there's a lot of storylines coming through Canada.
There is, and today I actually started not grinding. I started reading about the teams to put all my notes together for the start of the season, and it seemed like a debacle in Calgary, but it doesn't feel like it's that far away from being better. When I look at their roster and the number of points they had, I was kind of surprised. Like, I had them in my head, they were low 80s, and they weren't. And I'm like, that team still, I think, can be a problem. I don't know how good they can be, but they can be a problem. Ottawa's the most interesting story because it's been upside down for so long. They've got all these younger players that are now ready to really, I think, take a step in a significant way. The ownership will change, and I don't know that that'll change anything right away, but, they can be a cap team. They can make moves maybe they couldn't have made in the past. Is their defense good enough? What steps Jake Sanderson going to make? Is that goalie or the goalie's going to hang together? Can they be healthy? Because they weren't last year. I mean, Ottawa's really intriguing. And I think Edmonton's, clearly the best team. They lose to Vegas last year, and I thought maybe a part that wasn't quite discussed enough was that the plan was not to have a rookie in goal in that playoff series.
Right.
And I think they're better this year because the rookie's not a rookie. I thought Stu Skinner had a fabulous year, and I thought they lost in part because their goaltending wasn't good enough. But I don't think that's going to be an issue this year. I think Edmonton's really good. Vancouver's interesting to me, of course. I live here, and with Cammy's involvement, but Pettersson's coming into the last year of his deal. That's a big deal. They redid their defense. They think they're a lot better. I think they are too. Can they push for a playoff spot like they want to? But at the end of the year, what's going to be the end of the regular season, the most interesting place is going to be Winnipeg. And it's going to be, what are they going to possibly do with two guys that are not coming back? Mm-hmm. Because that's the only way that they can keep themselves moving forward in anything close to a positive manner, is they need to get good returns for Hellebuck and Scheifele. Because if they both say they're not coming back, you can't let them walk. That just can't happen.
Ray, Kyle went out and got Karlsson. Do you think that's enough? Because we were talking about it earlier, and you put him into the lineup. I just think a lot has to turn around from what they did last year to kind of make a move and make one last charge. Don't you?
I do, but this is why I liked it, is that...
I like it too, but it just seems like at the age of everyone else, it just seems like a lot to ask.
Yeah, except I think they don't have a choice. We hear lots of times about teams that build and they're like, okay, they're young core, they're all around 24, 25 years old. We want to add players in that age group. Well, you have to add around your core. Unfortunately for them, their core is all 34 years old. And so it doesn't really do them much good to go add a couple of progressing 23-year-olds. They got to add somebody now. Karlsson takes minutes away from Letang. He's chronically overused. I think Letang, less will be more for him. I still think he's got a lot of game left. I think Karlsson will have a big year. I don't know how he wouldn't. They got faster, which somehow over the course of time, we do a lot of Pittsburgh games. The Penguins last year, they got slow. And it was really interesting to think that all of a sudden Pittsburgh is not a very fast team, because they weren't. But they added forwards that are quick. They added guys that maybe give them more depth, but everything's going to roll around those big guys' hands, right? If Tristan Jarry has a good year, Noodles, I don't know what you think of him. I've seen him both good and bad, but he's got to have a big year for them.
Yeah, I like him as a goalie, but I think he was 24-12 last year as far as wins and losses, but he was very erratic and kind of matched that team.
I must have caught him at bad times because I saw some goofy performances.
Well, yeah, he wasn't consistent.
He was either awful or great, and then when he got hurt, it was Casey DeSmith, and they were just kind of hoping, and they need him to be healthy. And I thought Dubas did a really good job with what he had. However, I think he was a little bit hands tied, because what are you going to do when everybody in your core is of that age? You're not going to move them. You're not going to change them. You've got to ride this 3 years that they all have on their contracts or so and get the most out that you can.
Yeah.
Ray, I don't know if you saw the video of the golfer that was driving back to AT&T over the weekend. And
yes.
All I could think of was you, your face exploding.
You were in that situation and your driver snapped in half. Biggest hole of your life. How composed would you be when you put the peg in the ground?
Well, I would say that I would be driving the cart the rest of the way, and that guy would be standing.
What would you have said to the lady driving the car?
Are you freaking kidding me? What did you just do? And then they go back. It's a par 5, I think, and she's got a driver, or does not have a driver. Got a 3-wood. Yeah, good luck.
Oh.
Thanks for coming.
That's the worst part. Like, if it's a short par 4 or something, you're like, I can get away with this.
Yeah.
Just a long par 5. Like,
And you're watching your competitors just swing the
Crushing
driver.
crushing it.
Could you imagine what the rest of that ride was like?
No, the best is when she's holding the driver head cover with the driver in it, like handing it to her.
Yeah, there you go.
Here you go. Thanks.
There you
for
go.
that.
I think this is yours. Is it broken? Anyway, we got to get back there.
Yeah.
We got to get moving here. So, yeah, that would not be
love it.
fun. Would not be fun for anyone, I would assume. But
No, that would not be good.
No.
Not be good.
it would not. All right, buddy. Well, great catching up with you. And good luck with the pickup there. Does it feel like you're on the right path or what?
Say hi. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
There you go.
There you go.
We're in business.
I love
We're in
it.
business.
The first day pickup. That's what we're looking for. Good stuff. Congratulations.
He reminded me of the street that the school was on, so it was no problem.
Yeah, that seems to be a priority, actually knowing where you're going for a school pickup. But you got it now. No turning back. We love it.
Awesome, guys. It's
All right, buddy.
nice to have you back. It was a hell of a vacation you guys were on.
Yeah, we enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah.
We did have fun. But now we're the hardest working men in show business the rest of the
That's
way.
right.
Yep.
It's go time,
Oh,
Ray.
yeah, good luck selling that.
Yeah,
Have a
we're going
good
to
one.
try. See you, buddy. Thank you. There's Ray Ferraro, our ESPN hockey analyst, co-host of the Ray and Dregs pod, joining us here on the Maple Toyota hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory. Arriving daily, it's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right, there you go.
It was good.
Good catching up with Ray. Little hockey talk day after. It doesn't feel like hockey weather out there. It did last week. Last week was like 14 degrees.
Terrible.
It felt like, the NFL's coming, the NHL's coming now. I mean, I don't know if you want to be on the ice with this kind of heat. My kids are swimming.
I love the golf weather where it's like kind of a zip up with shorts, like that kind of vibe on the first tee.
Yes. Where it will warm up progressively.
Maybe you take it off, maybe you
won't.
don't.
Yeah.
But you're
Today,
comfortable.
I had the zip up on, having a coffee, and I just stepped outside. I said, no way.
That would have been
I'll-
a punch in the face.
I'll bet you at 6:30 it was 22 or 23 degrees.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy. We have an update on Travis Kelce and in terms of what happened with his knee today and possibly what could happen leading up to opening night on Thursday. We'll tell you about that. Davis Schneider coming up in about a half an hour. Jays continue, hopefully rolling out in Oakland. Big win last night. We'll catch up with Davis in just over half an hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, we'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. We got Davis Schneider coming up in about a half an hour. He'll make his Overdrive debut. We can't wait. How he was not in the lineup last night is
Hasn't he been their best player?
by a substantial margin. Like Bichette's out, Chapman's out, now Jansen's out, and yet Schneider, because of the analytics, he could.
I
It's
don't-
just sickening that he was
was
not
just
in the
gonna
lineup.
say.
They still won the
They-
game.
they did do-
They
they
won the
snuck
game.
it
Somebody
out.
got on the computer and said, the guy in the mound, he faced him in the minors, and he's a lefty, and he
Yep.
went 0 for 2, and
But
blah,
they
blah, blah.
barely snuck it out.
They
I
almost
was
found a way to
watching
choke that game
they
out.
did. Like that
Like
was,
Oakland is they are in the midst of the softest schedule in
Yeah.
baseball. Like
Which is horrifying to ever say,
it is.
regardless of whatever level of pro sports.
Yes, but they got their 2 out of 3 out of Colorado. Now you're looking at, you're trying to sweep the Athletics, which is not unreasonable.
Should.
You're going to have Kansas City coming up, and that 4-pack of games against Texas, that is probably going to determine whether or not they make the playoffs. Right?
First question I wanted to ask you about the Blue Jays, because it's been all summer. Why, with what they have done as far as free agents, the young players, have they not turned into, and I'm not going to say Atlanta or the Dodgers, where they just win so many games, they're a lock to be first and a lock to be in the playoffs. Why aren't they something similar to that?
I've got
Where they're not scrapping and clawing for that last wild card spot.
pitching hasn't been a problem, but Manoah's like this guy
Well,
just.
that is
At the
one of
beginning
race.
of the last
Day
two
one.
seasons, wouldn't you think that they would be not scrapping and clawing like
Yes.
this?
The
So why
answer-
are they?
Well, clearly their hitting is not good enough. I mean, that goes without saying, but the story of the year in terms of failure has been runners in scoring position, and they cannot cash.
So what the hell's the answer to that?
Well, they need more power bats. I mean, that's the thing. They barely have a 20 home run guy. Like that's go look at Atlanta's. Now you mentioned Atlanta. Atlanta's the best team in baseball. So that is an extreme example, an extreme comparison. They, I believe, like their everyday lineup 1 through 9. I'm pretty sure their 9-hitter has like 13 home runs. And I want to say 6 or 7 of their everyday guys have 20-plus home runs.
I just said,
like
that's a big ask. It can't be that.
No, ideally it would be. And maybe if Anthopoulos stayed, maybe it would have been. But that doesn't mean Acuna's here. But maybe he trades for Matt Olson. Like Olson was a guy that was acquired. He went out and traded for him. He realized, I got to have this guy. He let Freddie Freeman walk. That takes stones. Freeman is one of the great Braves of all time. He wanted to stay there, and he basically said, listen, this is what we're going to offer you. We don't need you, Freddie.
Stuck to his guns.
Yeah. And Freddie Freeman's been outstanding with the Dodgers. Like he's worth the money that the Dodgers
And there was
paid
rumblings about a contract that wasn't offered, that wasn't there, and pissed at his
some bad
agent.
blood.
Yeah.
But honestly, they have had too many guys that have had underperforming years. And
including
I think
Vladdy.
Vladdy is number one. Vladdy is having, based on standards, one of the most disappointing seasons I can think of in Toronto sports in a decade. Like, not based on his standards, right? You look at his stats alone, you might say, well, the average guy, but he's not the average guy, right? Like, he is expected to be MVP caliber, if not a step below. He's nowhere close to it.
Especially in one particular situation, and you just mentioned it, with runners in scoring position.
Clutch hitting. Do you know how many double plays he's hit into this year? It's obscene.
He's setting records, tying people for records to match that. It's
time
outrageous.
And again, statistically, recently he's putting up decent numbers. Like you look at his numbers recently, but still not outlandish. Not I'm dragging this team somewhere, especially considering where they're at. They're lucky they've got this off schedule because Chapman out, Bichette out, and now Jansen likely done for the year. Those are 3 big absentees.
Yeah.
Yet they're getting production from Davis Schneider.
Yes.
Like Davis Schneider's come up. You look at his statistics since he came up; they are outlandish.
So put him in the lineup.
Oh, of course, he should be in the lineup in perpetuity. Like he should never come out of the lineup. He should be hitting somewhere between 1 and 4 in your lineup for the rest of the season. But they made a miscalculation in terms of hitting for power, and they tried to balance their lineup out, and they tried to put an emphasis on defense.
Yeah.
Vladdy has not had a great year. He's had an awful year based on his standards. Kirk's been awful. Varsho's been awful at the plate. Chapman had a great first month, and he's been relatively bad as well. That leads to you chasing it, man. Like it's a game of offense, right? These new rules and where baseball is today. You got to hit for power.
Do you think the simple tweak of the two guys leaving, Gurriel to Arizona?
Yeah.
And who went to Seattle?
Marino. Oh, and Teoscar. Yes. Yeah. Like Teoscar.
Just look at the dynamic they had offensively. Maybe just that simple tweaks kind of screwed with the chemistry a little. I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm searching for something.
Like Gurriel is your classic hot and cold guy. Right. Like you're going to look at his stats at the end of the year and say, not that impressive because he's going to have 3 months where he's awful and 3 months where he's great.
Yeah, but dude, he seemed to have some mojo with. Yeah. I don't know. He just brought something.
Teoscar is a power hitting right handed bat, which is exactly what they've been lacking. Yet Schneider's up now and basically supplying that.
Right. But Gurriel was part of like the fun club.
Yeah, that seemed to be a part,
too,
but that I think has been a part of the issue is that they wanted a different mix in the clubhouse. They wanted the Kiermaiers here, they wanted the Belts here, they wanted to be a serious team, quote unquote. And without the production, it doesn't matter.
Like, they're not a playoff team today. I know they're half game out, but I mean it's they're scraping.
They're scraping.
Where you expected another level this year, based on. The pitching's been pretty good.
Pitching's been outstanding. You could not have asked for a better season.
That's what I mean. Like
especially with Manoah in AAA on the inactive list.
Dude, that's something I didn't see.
I don't even.
That's a turnaround. Like, who the hell saw that?
Like, it is a 100% reasonable question to wonder if this guy's ever going to pitch again for the Jays.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's gotten to that point where that's not a hot takey, shticky question. I hope he does. I'm
like, what if the Grappler asked you a year ago, saying, confirm or deny? A year from now, we'll be talking about Manoah never pitching for the Jays or in the majors again.
He got handed the ball day one.
2 years in a row.
They sent him to the Florida Complex League, and that is not rock bottom. whatever is going on with him, and it seems a little bit strange that he's out of sight, out of mind. He's in AAA, but he's not pitching there. He's on the inactive list. They're being very coy with what's going on.
Yeah.
And if it's something personal, then they
respect the privacy.
Absolutely. No one deserves to know that. You protect the player. You protect the person is what you're doing at that point. But his stuff has been awful all year, and now he's been sent down twice, and now he's just not even pitching, period.
Right. So
there's no injury that we're aware of.
So look at that storyline.
It's crazy.
If you would have said that their number one ace is going to be inactive in the minors, you would think that the pitching would be a disaster. It's the exact opposite.
Complete opposite. You're feeling great. Kikuchi's been great. Barrios has been great. Gosman's been a stud.
Yeah.
Bassett's been good. Ryu's been very good since he returned.
Yes.
Like Ryu, your boy, he gives you 5 innings.
And then he's on I-95.
He's out of there, man. Bullpen's been pretty strong. Like their team ERA is top 5 in baseball.
Who's the guy they got from St. Louis?
They got Hicks, Jordan Hicks.
Yeah, he's been good.
He can throw heat. I mean, the guy can touch triple digits on the gun. When he misses, it's a mess. But there is a lot of talent there, and when he's throwing strikes, he's incredibly difficult to hit.
Yeah.
So they have the rotation. They have the bullpen of a team that should be very competitive. They got to match it offensively, and at this point, it's difficult to see that.
Yeah.
Exploding to the point where you feel like the World Series is back within reach.
Right.
I think they can still make the playoffs. Statistically, they're probably expected to do that based on their schedule and what's going on with Texas.
Right.
But if they don't start hitting better than this, I mean, even if they make the wild card, it's going to be difficult to picture them really going on a run.
Yeah, they got to get their act.
They got to get their act together. And they got to keep David Schneider in the lineup. He'll be in the lineup tonight. He's coming on the show.
Yeah,
he can't be coming on and them scratching him again. He's coming off the bench.
He's 24, right? Up and coming.
Yeah. Well, he's up and coming's difficult because he kind of.
When you drafted in 2017.
Yeah, and he was a late round pick and not on the radar. It's not like Scott Mitchell or anyone was like, "Oh, this guy's the best prospect in baseball" or anything like that. He just, ever since he arrived, man, that series in Boston. We'll ask him about that. It was historic what he did at Fenway.
Is there a cycle of mustaches? This is the thing that, because like when I have to ask him, that's my only question to him. I know he's played great and all that. At what point did he commit to that duster?
It's like
he looks like a cartoon character.
Like either his dad is really old school and he told him, "Look, man, you gotta have a mustache," or there's like the new Auston Matthews. Like you see a lot of young dudes now.
Yeah,
they just have a mustache.
Yeah, it's kind of.
And I find it quite interesting because I'm like. Because when we were growing up, you didn't have a mustache.
No,
man,
you didn't.
Because you looked 50.
Mm-hmm. That's
you know what I mean? Like you were 27. If you had a stash, you looked 50.
Right.
But now these young guys, you see a lot of, especially amongst the hockey guys, like.
Yeah, it's a trendy look.
Yeah, but
they have a stash.
But it's like, I don't think that's a trend. Like, I don't think he's like, I woke up and, okay, the next 3 months I'm going to grow a mustache.
Oh, it's a lifestyle.
Like Stuart Skinner in Edmonton had a mustache, like a full duster.
Well, the issue is like once you commit to it, you can wake up at 70 and you still have a stash, right? Like the Tap Man is the best example. Jim Thaddeus had the same mustache for 50 years. Oh, I think longer than 30. I was doing Sportsline a long time ago. He had the stash. I've never seen him without one. Been on TV for a long time.
Gino Reda have a mustache?
You think Jim Taddy's mustache is 40 years old?
I think it's 50 years old.
I think it's older than 40. It's over 50 years old.
I would be willing to put money on it.
I'm going to text him right now. You say it's 50.
I say, I'll bet you he's gone 50 years without being fully like a clean-shaven face.
I don't want to age the Tap Man, but let's say he's
40 years. Fine.
Let's say he's 60. I don't know. I have no idea how old he is.
He's older than 60. We love the Tap. This is a respectful conversation. We're not. Tap Man's been running the show.
I think his mustache
for a long
is
time.
40 years old.
I think it's north of 40.
I think it's 50.
I'm going to text him.
Text him right now.
There are some of the most famous mustaches out there, though. There's a cycle. Yes. Like growing up, it was Tom Selleck. It was Burt Reynolds. Those are, I'm dating myself. That's what it was.
You're right.
Hollywood stars who had mustaches.
But they couldn't get rid of them. Like Burt Reynolds, he couldn't show up. I guess he eventually... Did he ever go no stash? I don't think so. He must have been
if he showed up at a paid event, they'd be like, get back there and get a stash before you walk in here.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, he had to have one.
That's what I mean. The young, like, it's all of a sudden there's a cycle of mustaches again now.
Oh, the grappler has an immediate response. The Tap Man has already answered the question.
Yes, and in response to the question, how old is your mustache? The reply is older than you and anyone you work with.
So I'm
We need
52
a number,
years old,
All
though.
right.
But I mean, that puts it well over O's guess of 40, does it
Yes.
not?
We want a number. Tell him we want a number.
Well,
Ask for a specific date.
Started in 1972.
That is 51 years old.
yeah.
I told you it was a 50-year-old stash. I told you that. Imagine never changing your stash for 51 years. What a commitment.
That is
I
unbelievable.
love the tap man.
We
I
do. We
love,
love
the
the
fact.
tap man.
Well, of course we do. But the fact that he's been committed to the stash lifestyle,
Like, did people offer him money to shave it at some point? Like
that means like a large percentage of the people that have known him throughout his life have only known him as Jim Taddy with a mustache. Like, I'll bet you Mark Hebscher has never seen him without a stash. And Hebsy's probably known him for 40 years.
so we have no idea what his upper lip looks like.
No idea. I love it.
Imagine the wear and tear if he was a committed like Blue Darts that whole time with that stash.
It would be yellow.
Oh, man. Yeah,
It would have a yellow ring.
that would take a long time.
Yeah, that is.
That would be
Unbelievable.
like you'd have to paint that thing on a weekly basis.
Spray painted.
Yeah, spray paint weekly. All right, there you go. That's the answer we wanted. David
Or
Schneider
you would have
coming
to
up.
Google what makes it brown. Like what mixes with orange to make it brown.
Right, what kind of cocktail can we put together here to get this thing back in the rails? All right, David Schneider in 20 minutes. Confirm and deny in about 45. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Handball going to the Olympics.
Is that right? I didn't see that. Okay, big development.
Handball?
Handball, Canada basketball.
Oh, okay. I thought he said handball.
I thought you said handball. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
there's
like,
a lot
there
of
you go. That's an
weird
interesting way to
sports in the
start a
Olympics.
new segment, but sure, handball. All right.
Isn't that like the little nickname Canball?
Handball, you're right. Yes, the Canadian men, they're going there for the first time since 2000.
But dude, you know what I hope? The reason I brought it up, and it's one thing because you want to go and win, but those guys that went over there and that are busting their asses right now, some of them don't just get punted for other guys that are like, okay, it's cool to be in the Olympics now. I want to hop on board.
Yeah. But
And I'm not just talking about Murray and Wiggins because they're so good.
They're
Obviously,
going.
you
But they're
welcome them
going
on
in
your
They're
team.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those guys are the ones that went over there and did it.
Yeah, and it was a great. So they had to battle back against Spain, who was a great international team, and like Shai
Handball. As if I would
Gilgeous-Alexander.
bring up handball.
I thought that's what you said was handball. I'm like, when did that happen, and why would we
Dude,
possibly
you looked at me
talk
like,
about it?
what? And I'm like, maybe this didn't happen.
No,
And
I'm glad you brought it up because it was significant over the weekend. Like they punched a ticket. Like the rest of this FIBA now is completely irrelevant. No one cares if they win the quarters, semis, whatever. The only thing that matters was you qualified for the Olympics and you're going to Paris in 2024. And that is going to come up. Like Jamal Murray, he could have played, but he chose not to. And I understand why. He had
For a pretty good
reasonable
reason.
He did.
Right.
He's coming off major surgery. He played up until the finals. And I think a lot of that was probably Denver really saying, hey, don't go. Jokic
Yeah.
wasn't playing. Murray's going. He's playing.
Yeah.
Wiggins is the one that has been flaky at times. He does have a lot of history playing for Canada at different levels.
Right.
This one, though, he was basically like, I'm not committing to 3 years. So if you don't want me, fine. But I have always been kind of fighting against, like, if you don't want to go, then screw it. You can't be a part of it. I've changed my tune on that because I think you want the best team.
Yes.
Like, for the country, they're representing you. You want to be chasing medals, and Wiggins is going to help you do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all on board. Get Andrew Wiggins in there. Get Murray in there.
Dude,
but
I
this
get
is,
it. I just don't like it for maybe one guy on the roster that's just over there busting his ass, and it's
Yeah.
like,
he's going to get rinsed, that one guy.
Well-
because you're right. When Wiggins shows up, he's taking his spot.
He will, and Murray will as well. What I think, I look towards the top of the lineup more than I look at the bottom and say when Murray gets there, and Murray's a great player.
Right.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander runs this program now. Like, that kid's got a chance at legitimately chasing and tracking down and passing Steve Nash in terms of the greatest Canadian ever. He was already, this year he was first team All-NBA.
that guy was a two-time MVP.
I understand that, but he started later in his career. Nash had a good start to his career in Dallas, but he had to get to Phoenix. He had to lose some weight. He started playing a little bit different.
Yeah, but
I don't know if Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win MVPs, so it might be tough to catch Nash. But if he has like 15 years of Hall of Fame caliber and he does something with the national team, that can go a long
I
way.
think the luster's come off of Nash a little bit because of his coaching record for you. That's what you're looking at. Like, for me, Steve Nash is a god.
He's the undisputed
But
greatest.
you're looking at his coaching
player.
record and him getting asked to leave and
Yeah, that was
whatever the
it was
hell.
a
and-
weird run in Brooklyn. I'm not going to hold it against him as a player or as a Canadian, But all I'm saying is, like, the bar has been set at Steve Nash.
Right.
And
Do you think
deservedly
he has
so.
a chance to be
I
passed?
don't know, man. This kid is unreal. Like, your first team All-NBA, and he's like 23 years old.
That's true.
Like, think about who he's playing past to get on that list.
Yeah.
You're talking one of the two best guards in the NBA this year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And look what he just did in the fourth quarter, him and Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
Unbelievable story. Like, awesome story to see that happen. And next year they'll be there. There you go. Can ball. Nick, right back.
Can ball.
Can ball.
I thought he
Shout out.
said handball too.
I think everyone thought he said
Guys,
handball.
Like, I've said some stupid things on this show, but I would never say like, how did I start
Why?
a handball in the
Isn't
Olympics?
handball a sport though?
It is a sport. I don't believe it's in the Olympic Games. I think it had been on the back burner of possibly being added. So I thought maybe there was some breaking news, and you were like,
maybe
we're going to
pickleball.
the Odes.
Maybe pickleball will make the Olympics.
I hope not. Not a real sport, pickleball.
I'm not.
Not a real sport.
Don't you say that around Craig Button.
I'm willing to go on the record. I'll battle Craig if I have to. Handball is in the Olympics? All right, there you go.
Both things are true.
Shout out to handball. Hour 3 coming up. Davis Schneider, confirm or deny. Still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.